and I'm welcoming you, magic makers, to the beauty of this day and the bounty of this day as we are moving through August. And really wanted to share what was top of heart is that, you know, there's been this 2-year cycle. I know I personally have been in a very deep dark night of the soul. Many of you know that, but it's this death, rebirth, this constant journey of death and rebirth. And we all experience it in our own unique ways. But the thing that I am 100% positive of is that we are all collectively experiencing it. It is as if we are going through a collective dark night of the soul. And that can look different for each human being, and it does. And so what I want to speak to today is the cycles. And I do strongly believe that we are moving through yet another initiation. The full moon that happened on the 1st of August and Venus being retrograde, and a lot of the astrology and a lot of I'm going to say the temperature is turning up, but I don't mean that in as much around the climate as I do the energetics of the temperature that's occurring in the consciousness of humanity. We are actively birthing a new earth, and that means we have a lot of contractions and a lot of expansions. And I have been very much walking through this portal, and it's been incredibly uncomfortable the last few days. I'm curious how many of you are experiencing something that is similar, where you can't seem to focus, you can't seem to get the foot up, and can't seem to get moving forward. And then there's this experience where one day you wake up the next day and you're like on fire and everything is just moving in accordance. So paying attention to the cycles and the acceleration of the cycles. You know, we used to go through these periods where we'd be in a period maybe of rest or contraction, but it's an acceleration right now. I mean, the pivot of the frequency of how I and we as humans feel shifts so much in one day. It's maddening. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, am I losing my mind? And all of my guidance and spirits say, yes, by all means, you are losing your mind. We're losing the density of the matrix of the third dimensionality of the programs of the mind, the shoulding. And are you experiencing that when you are going to do things that you have always done and they don't bring you joy anymore? It just doesn't align anymore. And so there's this juxtaposition point where there's no going back to the old. And yet the new expression of what it is that we are becoming hasn't completely solidified into its fullest expression as of yet. So we're I don't want to say we're stuck, because none of us are stuck. We're experiencing the space that is in between. And that space that is in between sometimes can be a little bit disconcerting. It also activates a lot of 3D things where we can tend to get into worry about our purpose, or how we're spending our time, or how we're navigating our resources, or where sources and resources are coming from. It's a very elusive, it's demanding a very elusive space for us, and it's demanding an incredible amount of trust. And the trust, as we know, comes from connecting into higher self, into higher accordance, knowing that everything is in divine order. And so part of what is coming through is, you know, there's a grief cycle that lives within this massive transformation, within this massive letting go. There is a grief cycle that lives within it. And our society, our culture doesn't have tools or ritual or acknowledgement even really for grief. And yes, there's a lot of extremes of grief, of death and such things that I and many of us have walked through, death of those that are very close to us. But I want to acknowledge that grief happens in many different levels. And there's also this grief that comes in the letting go of who you once were, in the things that once worked, in the ways you expressed yourself in the world, through your work, through your community, through your personality, right? All of these things are in a great time, a time of great transformation. And so grief is a natural part of letting go, of allowing that which once was to be laid to rest. And it's okay to come into a sadness of letting go, into a state of grief. And so as I am embodying this in my own experience, it's become very clear to me how important it is to ritualize our death experience, to lay to rest the pieces and parts of ourselves, to actually ritualize the transformations and the transitions that we are experiencing while we're becoming new humans. And so what I'm formulating in my own being, and I'm actually going to take myself through a death ritual, welcoming in what I call the dark mothers, which are, our society is very keen, especially in the spiritual world, on honoring, we're all going to the light and it's all in the light. But light doesn't exist without darkness. It is the yin and the yang. It is the balance of all things. And we want to override what we perceive to be darkness because we perceive darkness to be bad. But I want to speak to that the shadows, the yin side of the yang is essential for growth. And so when we talk about the dark mothers, we talk about the ones who walk us through the death rituals, the death portals, the letting go, the grief, the wailing woman at the wall. These are essential aspects to becoming a fully expressed divine feminine. And our society wants to ride over it. If we look at death, how many times do people experience death and they get back up and go to work? Like, I got to get back to work. They don't give space for it. We don't put ritual to it. We rush through a funeral and we move on. There's so much more to the experience of dying as an old humanity, as an old matrix, and becoming that which is new as the new earth emerges through us. And so I am taking myself on a death ritual this weekend, and I'm very excited about it because what's coming through me is that it is time for me to honor the practice and to ritualize the death of the parts of myself that are no longer needed. That we're here to serve on a karmic in karmic ways, that we're here to understand the density of third dimensionality, but that are complete. And so walking myself, being in the embodiment of this, I will share on the other side. It is also part of the journey that I am walking women through on the 4-day retreat that I am just launching called Rise. And it is a 4-day in-person initiation here in the heart and the womb of Sedona, which is now my home. And I am going to walk women through the death of the old expression of themselves with the support of the dark mothers, and into the resurrection of self, into the remembrance of who you are at soul level, into the redirecting of your energy, the reclaiming of who you are, and ultimately into the rebirth so you can move back out in the world and deliver the truth of your light, balanced with the truth of that which is we perceive as dark, but it is really the expression of the yin that lives within you. So I'm sending so much love to your light. Thank you for being on this journey with me. I will drop the link to Rise below. It's on an incredible discount for the next couple of weeks, actually. And I'll let you know how my own death portal initiation goes. But for now, let's please acknowledge that light, butterflies, roses, and rainbows is a beautiful expression of this human condition, and it's not the whole truth of the story. So whatever it is that you are walking through, wherever you are grieving the loss, other parts of yourself, people, places, things, experiences, expectations, desires, dreams, whatever it is, know that you're not alone, and that it is part of the death to rebirth, to reclaim, to resurrect, and rise up new in the true essence of who you are at soul level. Love to your life.